Welcome back to the Bartender's Almanack for Cocktail America. I'm John, and this is the Almanack entry for the first week of January 2026. It's the birthday of Robert Carl Baker, born in Lexington, Kentucky this week in 1921. Grew up in Lansing, New York, and graduated from Cornell University's College of Agriculture in 1943. His academic focus was something called pomology, which is the study of fruits and their cultivation. After that, he got a master's degree in marketing from Penn State and a PhD from Purdue. And beyond that, and from there, he went back to where he started and joined the faculty at Cornell. Somewhere along the line, Robert Baker shifted focus from fruits to poultry. And in 1970, Baker founded Cornell University's Institute of Food Science and Marketing. In April 1963, Robert Baker published an article in Cornell's Agricultural Economics Research Journal, which is the first time anyone published the idea of taking parts of the chicken that were previously being discarded and grinding them up to produce something of a bite-sized patty. This Ivy League publication is where the world first learned the concept of the chicken nugget. Of course, McDonald's was the first restaurant to bring a chicken nugget to the mass market, but they didn't patent their recipe until 1979, a full 16 years after Robert Baker's paper. According to Wikipedia, Robert Baker is credited with more than 40 innovations with chicken. I was not able to find a comprehensive list, but poultryhistory.org gave a few greatest hits: poultry hot dog, poultry bologna, chicken sticks, frozen French toast, and hard-cooked eggs in a tube. Not too sure about that last one, but Purdue University's website notes Baker having created a way to keep breading from pulling away from fried poultry, and he also created something called Cornell Chicken Barbecue Sauce. I have a bottle of it right here. Evidently, this remains quite popular throughout the state of New York, and this bottle came from Amazon. For these accomplishments, Robert Carl Baker was inducted into the Poultry Hall of Fame in 2004. He also coined the term chicken shit, which is what you call someone who's being a bit of a bitch. Now, I got that last one from Wikipedia also, so who really knows about that one? But anyway, next time someone tells you McNuggets are gross, let them know they came from the Ivy Leagues. And on the eve of the new year, we celebrate the birthday of a man who chose never to party on what might otherwise have been a really fun birthday. Thomas Bromwell Welch, born in Glastonbury, England on New Year's Eve, 1825. He came to America with his father when he was 8 years old, and when he was 17, became a member of a church that was founded that same year. The group called itself the Wesleyan Methodist Connection, which, for all the world, sounds just like a hip-hop group. Like many hip-hop groups, they were vehemently opposed to the buying, selling, or in any form the owning of human slaves. But unlike modern rappers, the Wesleyan Methodists were very strict in their opposition to the buying, selling, or in any form using of intoxicating beverages. In the first publication of their so-called Discipline, which is a handbook for the members of the church, it was expressly required that, quote, unfermented wine only be used for the sacrament. So despite the fact that, according to the New Testament, Jesus himself had turned water into wine, they felt that a sacramental wine with any alcohol in it at all would be too great a temptation for the worshipers in their church. Being devoted to his faith, Thomas Welch became ordained in the Wesleyan Methodist Connection at the age of 19 and would go on to open and lead a total of 3 more Wesleyan Connection churches all throughout different parts of New York State. So dedicated was he to preaching this version of the gospel that he used a number of different methods to prepare unfermented wine for communion. Depending on the time of year, the reverend might reconstitute raisins or add preservatives to fresh-pressed grapes to keep the juice from turning. The role of yeast in fermentation was discovered by Louis Pasteur in 1857 when the very Reverend Welch was just 31 years old, and there's nowhere on earth with a higher concentration of natural yeast than the skins of grapes. Armed with Pasteur's discovery, the Reverend began to use pasteurization to stop alcohol from forming in the vehicle of his beloved sacrament. Later in life, the Reverend's vocal cords failed him, and he could no longer give a full-throated sermon every week, so he became a traveling dentist. But his faith was still at the front of his daily life, and he urged churches wherever he went to use his pasteurized alcohol-free stuff, calling it, quote, Dr. Welch's unfermented wine. They still make it today, and I'd be willing to bet nearly everyone listening has had a glass of Welch's grape juice. So for those who are abstaining from alcohol on New Year's Eve this year, perhaps think of raising a glass of juice before the ball drops at midnight and mark the birthday of Reverend Thomas Welch. And for anyone taking the month of January off from alcohol, this week marks the anniversary of the publication of the story in a British magazine called Judy. The issue from January 3 of 1877 featured the fictional diary of a crotchety, miserly old lawyer called John Humes. He recounts the events surrounding his stay for Christmas at his cousin Clara's home. She was warm and welcoming despite his wretched attitude, but when she served his plate at the holiday feast, he was dismayed to find all the food was served cold. Despite this fact, he stayed several days with cousin Clara, and at each subsequent meal the food was decidedly not hot. Not the vegetables, not the pudding, none of the sides were served warm, and most disconcerting to him was that the roast, the holiday turkey, was somehow yet still served cold. Old Mr. Hume was so irked by the rudeness that he went home after the holidays and removed Clara from his will. The magazine was very popular, and talk of the story of Mr. Hume and his cousin spread throughout London and the surrounding towns. It was said that old Mr. Hume, in the act of just cutting her off, had given his cousin Clara the cold turkey treatment. This is the earliest known use of the term cold turkey in association with stopping something abruptly. There remains some debate about whether this is the true origin of the term. Among other theories, there's the common experience of something doctors call piloerection, which is a fabulous term for something awful. It's also known as goosebumps that emerge from cold skin when someone's going through drug or alcohol withdrawals. But not only is Mr. Hume's fictional diary the earliest known use of the term, we include it here on the Bartender's Almanack because of the timing. People are doing New Year's resolutions, starting them all this week, going back to better habits, myself included, especially after the gluttony of the holidays. And we may never really know the true origin of the term cold turkey, but for all you dry Januarians, raise a glass of juice or a protein shake or a gin bottle and toast the cold-hearted but fictional lawyer John Hume. Everybody else will have a glass of champagne, and if you're anything like me, some kind of a nice whiskey. Either way, thank you so much for stopping by. Stay classy, and I'll see you on the next one.